Have you ever watched something and just it sticks with you? Ever wondered what makes a great visual story so powerful, so unforgettable? Well, today we're going to unpack the blueprint behind those narratives. By the end of this, you'll have a real framework to make your own stories connect on a much deeper level. Let's dive in. So let's just start with that big question. What is it that makes some stories last a lifetime in our minds, while we forget others the second they're over? It's not some kind of magic, it's a craft. And that's exactly what we're going to break down, piece by piece. Here's how we're going to do it. First, we'll look at why stories are so important to us in the first place. Then, we'll get into the emotional core, the narrative arc, and the power of theme. And finally, we'll put it all together into a blueprint you can actually use. All right, first up, why do we even care about stories? Before we get into the nuts and bolts of how to build one, we really have to get why they're so foundational to, well, pretty much everything we do. The truth is, it's just how we're built. Our brains are literally wired for story. It's our oldest, most effective tool for making sense of this crazy world, for figuring out our place in it, and for connecting with other people. So when we talk about visual storytelling, this is what we mean. It's the art of taking a narrative and weaving it together with intentional visuals, things like composition, lighting, color, all to make you feel something or to get a message across loud and clear. And why is this so ridiculously powerful? Well, for one, stories take complicated ideas and make them simple, easy to digest. They also build this emotional bridge straight to your audience. And that connection? That's the secret sauce. It's what makes a message stick, and it's what makes people want to act. Okay, let's move on to our second key element, the emotional core. This is all about making your audience genuinely care. Because look, logic makes people think, sure, but it's emotion that makes them feel, and that's what really counts. So how do we do that? How do we tap into all that emotion? Simple, through characters. A relatable character is like your audience's passport into the world you've built. When we connect with a character, something wild happens in our brains. Scientists actually call it neural coupling. Our brain activity literally starts to mirror the storytellers. We're not just watching, we're experiencing it right alongside them. And this brings us to one of the absolute golden rules of storytelling. Show, don't tell. It's the difference between just stating a fact and creating a real experience. You could tell me the protagonist was determined. Okay, fine. Or you could show me her clenched jaw as she takes that final agonizing step. Now, I don't just understand her determination. I can actually feel it. See the difference? Okay, so we've got emotion, we're making the audience care. But a story also needs to go somewhere. It needs momentum. And that brings us to part 3, crafting your narrative arc. This is the engine that actually drives the story forward. Now, at the heart of every single great story is one thing: conflict. And listen, when I say conflict, I don't just mean a physical fight. It's any struggle between two opposing forces. It's the friction that creates tension, and, more importantly, it's what forces your characters to do something. Without conflict, you don't have a story. You just have a situation. And this struggle can show up in all kinds of ways. Sometimes the biggest battle is the one inside your own head. That's person versus self. Or maybe it's a direct confrontation with another person, or a fight against the rules of society, or even a struggle for survival against Mother Nature herself. A classic way to frame all this conflict, and it's a classic for a reason, is the 3-act structure. Act 1, the setup. You meet the characters, see their world, and find out what's wrong. Act 2, the confrontation. Things get way worse, the conflict gets bigger, and the stakes get higher and higher. And finally, Act 3, the resolution. Everything comes to a head, we hit the climax, and the conflict gets resolved, for better or worse. All right, on to our 4th element. And this one really ties it all together: the power of theme. If the plot is what happens in your story, the theme is why any of it matters. It's the answer to the audience's biggest question: so what? So your theme is that big, universal idea that's bubbling just beneath the surface. It could be something like love conquers all, or power corrupts, or maybe redemption is always possible. It's the central idea that gives the whole plot its meaning and purpose. I absolutely love this quote because it just nails it. The theme is the soul of the story. A cool plot might keep you entertained for a couple of hours, but a powerful theme is what makes a story resonate deep down and stick with you for years. Which brings us to our grand finale. Let's put all of these pieces together. We've looked at all the ingredients, so now let's see how they fit into a clear, simple blueprint that you can use. So, let's just boil everything we've talked about down to these 4 essential pillars. And I want you to think of them less as separate steps and more like different threads that you weave together to create one strong, cohesive story. And here it is, the blueprint in action. Your theme is your why. It answers, what's the point? Your character is your who. They answer, who do we care about? The conflict is the engine, it's the struggle. And the plot? That's just the what, the sequence of events that answers what happens next. It all fits together. Because when you get these 4 elements working together, you're not just telling a story anymore. You're doing something much more profound. You're actually crafting an experience for your audience, something they can step into, feel, and maybe even be a little bit changed by. So there you have it, a clear, powerful blueprint for telling better visual stories. Now the only question left is, what story are you going to tell?